there's been enough gurus out there who've told people to come in with authority positioning that a lot of people have come in with an overblown sense of authority positioning, and they actually cut and paste the stuff, and they go and they claim to be an expert, and they're fake experts, right? They're not, they actually don't know what they're talking about. I would say come in with the mentality that you do know more marketing than people in your industry, but learn the industry.
Welcome to Show Me the Nuggets, where each week Joe chats with world-class entrepreneurs to find out the key principles, strategies, and processes that lie behind their outstanding achievements. Now, your host, the no bullshit serial entrepreneur, Joe Troyer.
Hey everybody, it's Joe Troyer and welcome to Show Me the Nuggets. I'm super excited for today's guest, and I'm super excited. This is looking really good on our end. We're on Zoom today for the first time ever, so we'll see how this turns out. Maybe this will be the new destination for the podcast. But today, folks, we have Nathan Hagerty here, and Nathan is a bigwig, folks, in the tax and accounting space. And has been for quite some time. Nathan probably doesn't know this, but I've been following him for years. And I actually got introduced to Nathan first through a previous podcast guest, or Nate. Nate's telling me, I actually go by Nate. So I actually got introduced to Nate through a previous podcast guest that I really, really admire, Dustin Struckman. Dustin said, man, you got to see what these guys are doing. Check it out. They're doing some really great things. You should get to know them. And then fast forward, and we actually met in person briefly at a mastermind that we're both in. And so Nate operates Tax Pro Marketer. He's the founder and CEO. We'll have to blow him up a little bit here. 3-time 40 under 40 honoree by CPA Practice Advisor. And he's doing some really, really cool things in the tax and accounting space. And guys, I'm really excited to have him on because Nate wouldn't probably normally show up to things like this. But he said right before the recording, I'm just happy to help you feed your content machine. So guys, we're going to take advantage of it. So man, without further ado, thanks so much for coming on the show.
My pleasure, Joe. And I'm here because of you. I told you this before we got started, but the way that you serve, the way that you offer yourself to your community and to every group that you're a part of, I love the boundaries that you set, that you're not on Facebook. I love all the things that I know about you. And, I think we met in War Room years back, and man, like it's a pleasure to be with you. So thank you.
That's awesome, man. Thanks for making time for us. Give us a little background, man. How'd you end up in this crazy world of digital marketing and agency life, so to speak?
And through the back door, like maybe many of us, I was in youth ministry for years, and I was working for an organization called Young Life, and they were going to transfer my wife and I out of the area where we were. And so I just was looking for a job, and I ended up finding this guy who was on the committee of my local Young Life thing. And he ran a tax business. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll just get a job because I coach football and lacrosse and just do the thing that I'm doing and just do this on the side. Yeah. Well, it turns out he had built this massive empire. His name is Chauncey Hutter Jr., and he was in a high-level mastermind group with Dan Kennedy, Ryan Dice, and some of the top info marketers of the pre-internet days. Guys that we've all heard of, Yannick Silver. Some of these guys that are still massive, Ben Glass. So I had no idea about this when I kind of dove into his world, and I fell in love with marketing. I fell in love with information marketing and that whole world. I met Ryan Dice way back in the day, but when he sold his first information product, I was in the room, and that was, massive rush. That guy is so talented and gifted. I'm so thankful for him. So I kind of got in through the back door, not expecting that I'd be into this world. So I was doing coaching consulting alongside Chauncey a few years in, and started my own agency, my own business back in 2007. And it's been quite a ride since then. It was an implementation business, a marketing services company. And a few years back, we figured out that we're an agency. So that's a very, very short version. I've seen a lot of failure, maybe like a lot of your guests or people who are listening. This is actually one of my favorite stories. If you don't mind me just telling this real quick, because I think a lot of us, we see these success stories and we don't realize that there's a long journey that comes behind that story, and the overnight success built in over decades, right? And my in my first year in the business, I really didn't know what I didn't know, and I was terrible at accounting and all these things. I knew that I could sell, and I sold the heck out of what we were doing, and I was doing really well on platforms and speaking. And I brought in my first year in business. It was back in 2007. We did like 800K plus in that first year of me basically going to events, speaking, creating rushes at the back of the room and doing the thing. And then I think like I overwhelmed my production people. I overwhelmed my very nascent team. I had a couple clients not pay me after we delivered the work with like hard costs attached, like $14,000 of hard costs for these things. And I woke up one day, and it was like April of 2008. I'll always remember this. And I figured out, like in a moment, because I should have been tracking this months previous, that I was staring at about $100,000 of debt. And I had come into the business with no money. I bootstrapped the thing. I figured I'd just sell the thing and then fulfill it, right? That's what everyone always says. And I freaked out. I opened 4 credit cards in the space of like 4 hours. And, I like my credit line, the first credit card, I got 15K, the second credit card, 8K, third credit card, the agency started figuring out what was going on. I got like 4K and then like $800. And then I had a friend who, I was very fortunate in having this friend who had, he basically he was an heir to a coal mine, and he had a bunch of money coming through and didn't know what to do with it. In 2008 financial crisis, he lent me almost $60,000 at 3%, and payments not starting in 3 years. And then 5 months in, he says, "Hey, I just want you to know, praying this morning, you just keep that money." And so that's the only reason I'm in business today. I mean, that's the only reason I'm on your podcast, is that I had a friend who was so benevolent to lend me this money at very generous terms and then forgive the debt. Because we really pivoted at that point. We went to online marketing and we started doing things differently. Got a real accountant, which was ironic because I work with accountants, but that's a whole other thing. And so I just feel like I'm here just by the grace of God. And we built this, we're doing like 125K a month now, and it's a whole different thing. So,
dude, I love that. I love the grace. I love the honesty too. Most people would never.
Yeah.
Right. So,
well, what's funny is I tell that story in like my first indoctrination series of when people kind of enroll in our membership. I tell that story like 4 months in, because we also have a lot of kids, but we were infertile for a long time, and we were adopting. And so we actually have 4 children that we adopted, and then 3 biological children. So we have 7 children. But this whole process happened during the adoption process. So not only did it put my business at risk, it put my very future of having a family at risk. And I had to live off of the money that we'd set aside for adoption. And that was great for my marriage. I mean, it was awesome. It made things smooth.
Those crazy times being an entrepreneur and marriage and family, balancing everything, man. So nuts.
Yeah.
I want to point out something else that you said too. Like, you don't know what you don't know. That's so hard, man. And it's so true. We walk into things, it's almost a blessing that we don't know about all these things, or it would probably start us from ever starting. Right. But it's crazy. Like when I built my first business, I didn't know about unemployment, and I didn't know. I hired somebody to do payroll. They did payroll. They never paid the 941s. Right. And so literally the state of Ohio was coming after me as I had like a business at break even or roughly, and was like, "Oh, you owe us $150,000." And I'm like, "Wait, what?" Like maybe $150,000 the first year, right?
Yeah, you probably hired one of my clients to help you get out of that.
I did. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's so crazy. You don't know what you don't know, and unfortunately, like that is gonna happen, in every entrepreneur's journey at some point. So, awesome, brother. How'd you end up picking the tax niche? Was it just because
sort of like I sort of fell into it because I I was hired by this guy who was a coach to the tax industry. And so it's not a model that people could emulate, find somebody who's a guru and go work for them. Although maybe not, right? I mean, find a guy who has a following in the industry and go work for him at very cheap, labor, prove yourself. And if they've got the right kind of abundance mindset, like my guy does and does, they'll help you start your business. And he said when he hired me, I don't want you working for me 4 or 5 years from now, which is, at the time I was like, dude, I just need a job. But he put in me that desire for entrepreneurship, and it was massive. I give that, speech to some of my employees too. So, that's how I am. So I've been in the industry for 17, 18 years, and it's been quite a journey because tax and CPAs, they're wired differently than I am, but I jumped into it. Like I figured out pretty quickly that one of the ways towards success in serving a particular industry is diving in both feet to the industry and the nerdy things about that industry, and not holding yourself at a distance, but really like figuring out how people tick, know the language, understand the seasonality dynamics, understand like the things that keep them up at night rather than what you as a marketer or entrepreneur might be thinking about. And, I have my CPA clients now coming to me for tax advice and asking for interpretation of new rulings. And, I've never gotten my CPA. I'm not that kind of, I don't need the certifications like these guys do, but these guys are required 24 hours a year of continuing education. And I'm just paying attention really close because I write for them, and I'm getting them asking me questions because I've been doing this for so long. So here I am. I'm stuck.
Nate, is your ideal customer an accountant that does stuff for businesses or for individuals? Are most of your clients purely around tax season? Who is it?
So that's shifted. Yeah. For the first 5 years of our business, it was probably the individual taxation business that we targeted mostly, because that was the pond that I knew, because the coach that I worked for had that kind of firm, and it was very seasonal, and it was the kind of people that would shut their doors, May 1 and sip margaritas by the pool until September, and, then maybe begin opening the rise, and then, December hits and they're off to the races for 6 months, and then they don't work. It's kind of a cool business, but the commodification of that business has rapidly shifted things. So a lot of those folks, unless they've got like a multi-location business that has a system with a brand and they are like an H&R Block kind of clone, a lot of the mom and pop tax shops have had to pivot. And so we saw the writing on the wall years ago and have been working more directly with the year-round firm who does write-up work, is what we call in the industry for accounting, who has clients on a monthly retainer basis, which fits our model because from the beginning we've been putting our clients on a monthly retainer basis, no contracts. They could cancel at any time. We feel like we needed to prove the value every month. And, it's offered a little bit of churn in our business because when you don't have contracts, it puts you in a vulnerable place where someone could just, in a moment of anger and, email cancel. But, it's also put us in a power position because it's forced us to really figure out how to serve our people well so that we can justify our fees on a monthly basis. So here I am.
From the outside looking in, man, it seems like a crazy niche. Like just what I know about the vertical, working with accountants, having them do my books personally and business, but also seeing, like you said, all the commoditization of the entire market seems like it's in like one big roll up right now. And then it really seems, I know that we had an accountant that we did some basic marketing for, and we did it as a trade for some services a long time ago. And I remember I got him ranked in Google Maps, and he was getting inbound leads, but he could never convert them. And his complaint was always like, it's like there's no commonality in any of the leads. All the situations are different. What they want is different, and then like, most of them don't want to make a decision until it's tax
Right.
time. They have to. So it seems like, man, it seems like the odds are really stacked against you in terms
So
of
here's how
how
what
do you
we built.
how do
We
you
fell
provide
into the
value?
back. Yeah, so totally. And that's a conversation that we're having on a weekly basis with people, because I actually was in Perry Marshall's roundtable for a couple of years, and he pushed me in a direction that has shifted my thinking in some massive ways, which actually pushed me to the mastermind group that I'm now in with you. And one of the things that he said is that you've got to own the entire process for your clients, because what they really want, because let me back up and say that for the first, we've been in business 13 years. For the first 9 years, we were what I would classify more as a marketing services company. And by that, I mean, we had an email marketing program. We had a social media marketing program. We had a website program with SEO. We had a local listings program, right? We had a pay-per-click program, and you could enroll online and like pay a deposit, and boom, you become a client. And one of the things that we realized is that like the clients just want clients. They don't really care how they get them. They don't care about social media. They don't care that we were the first agency that I know of. We started doing managed social media back in 2009. Okay, before people understood what Facebook was. We were posting every day, handling all the replies, doing it all. Twitter, we were doing it all. We even created our own little software for Twitter so that we wouldn't be duplicating tweets across every client. But I will answer your question. So they just want clients, right? They really just want the end result. And the way Perry said is that you've been selling drills when what your clients want are holes. And it was brilliant. And I shifted my perspective right away, and we changed how we onboard clients and a variety of things. But one of the things that we realized as we shifted in that process is because our clients are not an e-commerce business, they're a service professional firm where you're right, people who need an accounting service, they're not going to necessarily feel the pain until a particular moment, whether it's tax season or every quarter when they're paying their estimated taxes or something, or when they get their P&Ls.
Yep.
They're not going to feel that, right? So there's got to be a way to nurture these folks, over time. And the classic rock'em sock'em, opt them in on a landing page, do an indoctrination sequence, and get them to an appointment and sell them. Well, yeah, it doesn't work great because the accountant isn't a good salesperson, and you've also the prospect isn't always ready, right? So we had to build a nurture system, and so we built our own software to deliver nurture emails on a weekly basis. But we do the whole thing where we have an API connection with Infusionsoft, and we kind of build it all out. And we got the massively upgraded Infusionsoft account, and we are like writing all the content, handling all the lists, doing all the things, just doing it all for them so they don't mess with it. And so we send out a weekly email on their behalf that feels like they wrote it. And when you do that, when a CPA or accountant or really any service professional is doing that nurture personalized email on a weekly or more basis, that's when magic happens for the business. And it does take time, but we realized that this was kind of the secret sauce for what we were doing for CPAs and tax practitioners, is that email, that nurture email.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know like any local businesses that do that. Like we as internet marketers just think like that's a foundation thing. It's an easy thing. Yeah, that's stupid. Let's, why can't they just do it? Right. But you really took it as let me do this for them because I know it's not going to get done otherwise. And this is what's going to bring the result. So I need to hear about this and I need to make a solution.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. I mean, we forget how kind of radical what we do has been for so long, and unique. So many small businesses are so stuck with how they do things, and they have no system. They have no nurture methodology. They have no intake methodology. They have no indoctrination methodology. They have no onboarding methodology. And this is something we've had to do in order to survive, because marketing a national business, it's like you're in the shark infested waters. And so you've got to do all these different things. The local business, it can be a little bit of a different environment. And so they can be lazy, or they can rely on other ways. And sometimes they do very well with none of that stuff in place, because word of mouth has worked for them in the local environment. But if they really want to build something long lasting, especially now, pandemic land and all these different things, they've got to build these systems. So yeah, we know they're not going to do it, so we just do it for them.
I love it, man. I love it. And that means that all that you really care about is the results for the customers, and you're willing to do what it takes to get them the results. And that's what's going to keep you guys obviously successful for the long term. So I can hear listeners going, yeah, but Nate, how do you write an email that the client's okay with? And how do you write as the client? I can hear the buts and the objections. So
oh man, that's super hard, I have to admit, because we have almost 300 firms that we do this for on a weekly basis. And I have to write something in the first person that they are comfortable sending to their clients as if they wrote it. And I've got clients all across the political spectrum, all across the spectrum when it comes to current events. And I've got to be able to kind of nail that voice, so honestly, that's it's something I'm just really good at. I'm a writer, and that's been like my greatest gift coming into this business. I can speak, I can figure out the marketing back end. I'm not dumb with software, but really the thing is nailing that voice. And so when our clients send this stuff, I mean, they get amazing feedback. So what I try to do is I try to write from a position of bemused detachment, and have our clients be that trusted advisor who is speaking to people about their best self, right? And I don't have my clients, stick their flag in the ground related to politics or anything like that. Although in the tax and accounting world, what they do is very oriented. It's very kind of connected to the political process because of tax code and congressional whatever in action. And so I make the IRS the enemy and Congress the enemy, because we can all agree on that. I make mass media not the enemy as much as a dangerous drug to be careful about. And I come kind of those two things, IRS and Congress the enemy and mass media is a dangerous drug. Those sort of guide a lot of how I communicate on behalf of our clients, because everybody can agree with that. We can all recognize that those things are dangerous or whatever, and everybody wants to keep their own money, and so it's easy to make IRS the enemy. So it's great. In our industry, there's a clear enemy. There is a reason to communicate to your people on the regular because of tax code changes or whatever. And that's different for other industries. I mean, HVAC industry, who's the clear enemy? Weather? Plumbing industry, we're fortunate in that way.
I love it. Yeah, I've been able to get most of my content and emails these days written by somebody else internally. Little addition for everybody watching this. It is possible. You're not a unicorn, right? It is possible. But Nate, I think people wouldn't barely believe that I've been able to do that, but they've been reading all my emails.
Right.
That you with all these customers, right? How many did you say you guys write for?
I don't know the exact number, but it's about 300.
I mean, that's crazy to think about. So it is possible, and that's great advice about.
We have some clients that have been doing it for like over a decade, because we've been doing that email marketing since 2008. So I mean, we have some people that they've been doing it, and all of their clients feel like they wrote it.
That's awesome, man. So I went and checked out your website again right before we jumped on the show. And I'm curious, man, what's up with this membership? It seems like you don't even offer services.
Right. So we came at that strategy from the information marketing world. And from the beginning, we created a membership because I wanted to sell by teaching and sell by offering value at the front end. And rather than just taking people right to like, here's what we do, here's how we sell, or here's what we sell, here's our services and pricing. Forget about that. I wanted everyone, like people, to raise their hand and come to us in a place of like intention, and not try to propose marriage on the first date. And so we did that from the beginning, even when we were this marketing services company and we did social media and email marketing and website services kind of a la carte. You could never buy it by just going to our website. You could never enroll as a client by going to our website. That was actually a really unintentionally very wise decision, because it created an audience and it created an authority positioning from the beginning. And that has, I think, been the key to our continued growth. And because we've never had a down year since that first year. We've grown every year, at least 10% every year. And, we're set to be up the upper end of just under 2 million this year. And we 13 employees, so we've grown throughout. And a big part of that is because we built an audience and not just created an email system to sell.
I love that. I'm curious if I was to build a community, right, and kind of follow after your footsteps, Nate, what would you say? Like, if I wanted to go into a vertical and create a community, what are the key, like, 3 or 4 things that you'd say, like, Joe, just make sure you got to get these things right, and you'll do well?
Again, it's the authority positioning from the beginning. Like, I think a lot of people go into a niche and, well, let me stop that and correct it. There's been enough gurus out there who've told people to come in with authority positioning, but a lot of people have come in with an overblown sense of authority positioning, and they actually cut and paste the stuff, and they go and they claim to be an expert, and they're fake experts, right? They're not. They actually don't know what they're talking about. I would say come in with the mentality that you do know more marketing than people in your industry, but learn the industry and serve the industry and go to the trade shows of the industry or the vertical or the niche, whatever it is, and do the hard work of shaking hands with the sales reps of the software companies that serve the industry, getting to know the CEOs of the concurrent businesses that are out there that aren't like yours. Do the thing to like understand, if you're picking a vertical, don't just come in with your cut and paste system. Figure the thing out and know your customer and know the world. Now that can be shorter than it took for us. I mean, I've been in the industry for a long time. From the beginning, I, took that authority positioning. But the other part that I did is I've formed relationships with other influencers in the space who I could serve and come to with something to help, kind of like what you do, Joe. I mean, this is you're very good at this, and I think that anyone who's probably listened to your podcast has heard you model this and speak about this from throughout all of what you do. And that is, again, forming relationships, building systems that can help you do that, so that you would have permission to speak to the audience of the person you build a relationship with. I mean, so if I was coming into an industry, I would learn the industry, recognize that I'd need authority positioning in the industry, and build relationships with the people that are already gatekeepers in the industry. Do those 3 things. The rest of it is details. Whatever service or marketing stuff that you do, or widget software you're building, it doesn't even matter. The big picture, if you do those things, then you're going to win. And you have patience and like an attitude to serve and not just extract revenue, you're going to win.
I love it. So true. So often we get stuck in all of the details instead of focusing on the bigger picture. I love that bigger picture, and that's where most people completely blow it. Is they haven't focused on those things. So that's great, man. Tell us a little bit about your packaging. What's your average customer kind of package, price, deliverables at the highest level?
Okay. At the highest level, we do a fully custom everything, and that's at just under $3,000 per month, and then ad spend on top of that. We have a few of those clients. We don't have a lot. It's ones that we kind of go in and create a whole new content everything. And I get personally involved with that client, not just with kind of the category of client. And so, that is like our ultimate client. And we have probably 4 or 5 of those. But our core, the probably the 95/5 of our client base, maybe 90/10, is our core package. And we build a custom WordPress website. We feed content, multiple posts per day. We do all the keyword research, so we optimize it for on-site and off-site SEO. We do all the local listings things that have to be done. Google My Business, we manually claim. Yelp, Apple Maps, Bing. We do all the local stuff that needs to be done. We optimize those. We feed content. Social media, we're feeding posts every day. We're actually going to every page. We've gone up and down with different softwares that help us do this, but we actually handle replies. We engage on behalf of the clients. We do all of it on Facebook. We tried doing LinkedIn for a while, but their terms of service are so restrictive from a scaled standpoint that we can't get in there. Basically, if we were to do LinkedIn for somebody, they would have to kind of give us the keys to their entire existence, and it also violates terms of service to do it at scale. So I wish that we could. I wish that they had a way. There's company pages, there's ways to do it, but they're just not nearly as effective for the LinkedIn platform. So we've experimented with that, failed, and so we just do Facebook on behalf of people. And then the email marketing is, again, the bread and butter of what we do. I've sort of already explained what that looks like on our side. So local, social, email. We also do managed pay-per-click for people and build search campaigns for them. We tried doing Facebook campaigns on behalf of people, but for our niche, we found that interruption model, it's a tough model for tax and accounting firms unless like you've got a CPA that can really be good on camera and can do that interrupting thing with the video and can communicate in that way. And most of our clients aren't that way. So we've really worked with Search and GDN, and that's been kind of our best pay-per-click source. So we put it all together, and we create what we call an online marketing machine, and we take care of everything. For the savvy marketers who are our clients, they see our stuff as like their content machine, and then they can snipe in and do whatever else they want on top of what we provide. So then we have an essentials package that's stripped down that does some reputation management and social media, but doesn't include the email. We do some ads for them, some landing pages, that sort of stuff, but it's not the full online thing. One of the things that I am now barking about within my industry is the rise of the cut and paste gurus who are selling ClickFunnels and ads. And I love ClickFunnels. I've been using it since they launched it. I've known Russell Brunson for a long time, from before he had ClickFunnels, and I love it. But for a local service business, there's some possible issues for long-term longevity. There's some great things about it, but when you built an online marketing engine that's just ads to ClickFunnels and don't have all the other things for a local service business, you're really, really playing with fire and putting your eggs in a particular basket. You've got to be good on the phone and sell people and put them through a hotbox email system that most CPAs don't want to mess with. But there's probably 5 to maybe, there's probably almost up to 20 of these cut and paste gurus who come into our vertical, and they got their system, their whatever they name it system that they've swiped from somebody else, and they've got their thing. And, it works for a few, and that's great, but it's not a comprehensive thing.
Yeah, I've never gotten into it, Facebook, for local services, just for that very reason. I can generate a boatload of leads, but I can never get somebody to show up in the office and show the return on investment. And I could never get a dentist office, whatever my client was, even that had staff to follow up, let alone a lot of my clients that don't really have that front office staff or any availability to do that. So yeah, I've always stuck with search just because conversions were easy. I could get butts in the seats and transact for them, a whole lot easier than the interruption model. So I've definitely
one of the things one of the things we're working on is the phone piece, because that's really hard. One of the things that Perry advised me to consider building is like our own call center, where we would actually handle the phones for people. And we haven't. That's a huge undertaking. We have not yet done that, but we're building a project that could accomplish that with some partnership with some financial planners that would work with some of our CPA clients, because financial planners are used to having to be in the shark infested waters, unlike CPAs. So we're kind of building something behind the scenes that might solve that. But if I could wave a magic wand for my clients, it would help them to answer the phone and talk on the phone, because I have mystery shopped my clients all like, and it is ugly. And that's like, we're driving all this traffic to get phone calls and emails and opt-ins. And when the phone call, like the CPA who picks up or their assistant picks up and they're grumpy as heck and they don't like it, it's the most maddening thing for a marketing agency.
Yeah, we in one of the agencies I'm a part of now, we do twice a week phone coaching, and we play Secret Shopper every month, and we share the recordings, and then we actually in that business, number one reason people leave is appointment no shows is the number one reason that we get left as an agency. And so we started the agency training program for that, and we actually keep track of the conversion rate on the phone. And we will.
You're a wizard, man.
We'll put warning systems in place, telling them that basically they're not getting our guarantee and that they're going to get booted as a customer if they don't like get into shape. So we can turn the tables a little bit, because they won't take action until the very end, until they're complaining with us that there's a problem because it takes them too long to spot. So we've gotten very aggressive with it.
I'm going to have to pick your brain offline about that, because one of the major pain points for us is we look at this top of funnel data and all the calls that these folks are getting, and our clients are saying, we're not getting in business. We're like, well, here's the call recording. Let me explain to you why. Like, let's dive into the data and you'll see, here's all the number of calls we've generated for you. Here's all these juicy leads. I mean, I will call one of my CPAs and can I vent a little bit on this podcast? I think I can. I will call one of my CPA clients and say, hey, I've got, pretending to be a prospect, I've got 6 businesses. I haven't filed taxes for 4 years. I've got some IRS debt issues. I've got people coming after me, but I've got this great cash flowing business. I've got a lot of money. I just need to get this IRS thing off my back. And I'll talk to the person on the phone and they'll be like, well, Mr. Jones isn't here right now. So just call back. I was like the biggest whale client possible. And anyway.
No, man, that's a huge concern, and you're definitely on the right track. And any way that I can help you out with that, man, I've been involved in a lot of the phone training side of things because I've had to be, because we've generated leads and lots of leads. In the last business that I built and sold, agency business, we were doing over 8,000 phone leads a month. And when I looked at the data, less than 1,000 were actually generating appointments.
Yes, we need to talk.
It becomes an issue for sure. So I want to shift a little bit and talk about your team. In the agency world, I feel like there's very different perspectives on team. There's the me, I'm solo, I'm going to do everything on my own, and not me. I'm the opposite. And I'm going to take all the profit. I'm going to do everything from A to Z. You got that version, but I'm going to just outsource fulfillment, and I don't want to deal with fulfillment. You got I'm going to have a whole team virtually. I'm going to have a whole team, before COVID, in-house. There's lots of variations. I'm curious what point of view you've taken and kind of your takeaways or your thoughts on that path.
When I started the business right away, like before I could afford it, I had an assistant, because I knew that I wanted to create a lifestyle business from the beginning. I didn't want to be a slave to whatever I built. And if I couldn't build it within a certain frame of time, then I needed to pivot. So from the beginning, I've had staff, and it's always been domestic. We have added some overseas staff in the last year, which I'll explain about in a minute. But 5, 6 years ago, my longtime employee, who is now my partner, actually brought him into the business because he is so good at all the things I'm bad at. I hired him, and it was the luckiest, best decision I've ever made. He's been with me for 13 years now, and my right-hand guy, Troy Lakey is his name, and he, my COO now. We have 13 people on our team, so we're not too huge. But about 5, 6 years ago, we realized that we had stumbled into a culture of joy in our business, and we had built something that we looked forward to every day because of the people that we were working alongside. And that's how it's even more so. It's probably times 3 or 4 that now, because we work with our friends. We were all hanging out watching the Chiefs game last night because we're in Kansas City, and go Chiefs. The how of that, it's like I can't give you the formula except that it's like treat your people well, and it's not about the money. It's about how you go to bat for them. We operate by vision and values, and we hire towards that. We hire friends of our employees, and that's kind of how we always hire. We don't really put ads out there and just get Joes off the street. We put the word out, and we just found the right people, and we keep people in our back pocket who, if we have an opening and a need, we kind of build a relationship. So we treat our people well. We operate by vision and values. And by that, in case you've never talked about that, we've got like 5 points. It's like the where we're going, and the values is like 7 points of how we're going to get there. And it's things like we always cover over each other's mistakes. Like revenue is a driver, but it's not the only thing. We just, I don't want to go through the whole thing with everybody, but we've created an atmosphere of joy. We've always given unlimited PTO. We have 2.5 years ago, I think, I don't know if you heard me interviewed with our guy who runs our mastermind. We do a sabbatical a week off every 8 weeks, and that has created an atmosphere of like we've got each other's back. It's created a cross training and thing with our clients or with our staff, because if half the team is off, the other half has to be able to like do their thing. And so to answer your question, we've created a team, and we've created joy in the team because we figured out 5 or 6 years ago that the thing that we were most excited about, that even if somebody came in and gave me $100 million to buy my business, the thing that I would still want is my team. I would still want that daily engagement with my people. And I wouldn't retire, because I freaking love the people that I work with, and I want to do great exploits with them. I want to like fight battles with them. And it doesn't matter how much money I make. My needs are taken care of. It really doesn't matter anymore because I've got people that I love that I work with. So that's team for me.
That's awesome, man. That's so awesome. And you're right. Like, the money doesn't matter at the end of the day. Once you get to a certain level, it just becomes a milestone. It just becomes a marker of some kind. But usually it's the only marker for most people.
It's stupid. I hate that.
It's all about the team. And the team coming to work every day, and you coming to work every day and enjoying what you do is so big. I mean, I've built multiple businesses that in the long term, they were only businesses. They didn't have the team. I didn't enjoy it. And those are the businesses I got out like lickety split, like as fast as I could. As soon as I got an offer, see you later, I'm out. And to be honest, for way too little money, because I didn't build it correctly. It was just about the race to get there and the money. And then once I sold
businesses like that too. And this is way better. It was Tim Ferriss, 4 Hour Work Week, years ago, that awesome book, where he talked about how you would create a lifestyle as if you were rich. You could have the things that rich people will work decades in order to have. You could actually have those things before you were rich if you just decided. That was one of his theses, and is brilliant. And from the beginning, like, I've set up my life with boundaries. I've got lots of kids, but even before I had kids, I wasn't going to be a slave to this thing. I was going to sew into my marriage so that, we're almost 20 years of being married now. Like, it's better than it's ever been. I mean, that's what I want. I want those things that a lot of people think that they're living for down the line. I want them now.
Heck yeah. Dude, that's awesome. This has been an amazing podcast, Nate. One of the best I've recorded so far. I just want to say
Thanks,
thank
man.
you, and I want to wrap it with one question. You've been a breath of knowledge, and shared a lot of nuggets and a lot of tips through your journey over the years. I'm curious. At the end of every podcast, I feel like every host says, "All right, Nate, what's the number one book that you would recommend, or what's the 3 books that you would recommend?" So I like books. I'm a voracious reader, but I have a problem. I either read the first chapter and I can't put it down, or I read the first chapter and I'm like, yeah, I'm done. So I go through a lot of books where I read that first chapter and I'm like, I'm done. I can't do it. And I've taught myself that it's okay not to read a book from start to finish, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've gotten over that. So I always like to ask guests, right? When you look at the business that you've built, right, and you look at the life that you've built today, what's the one book that you think has made the biggest impact on the way that you do business, the way that you operate, the way that you see things, and why?
So I'm going to say a book that you may have read and that a lot of people probably haven't, who have not been in this world, or they've written it off because it feels like it's part of a brand and it's not that interesting, but it's No BS Time Management by Dan Kennedy. Have you read that?
Man, I believe I have, but it was so long ago. It was probably
so long ago, right? He's the Godfather. So yeah. That book oriented me in how I was going to build and run a business and be a businessman. Obviously, the lazy answer is the Bible. I'm a man of faith, and so that influences everything that I do. And Dan Kennedy is a militant atheist, so so that's a fun combination, right? But I love his perspective on guarding your time, and he was one of the forerunners of that concept for entrepreneurs. His stuff in general, people don't realize how much gold is in there. The old school direct response guys, they knew what they were doing. So many of the gurus out there are intellectual great grandsons of these guys, and they are midgets compared to these guys, because when you have to do direct response marketing using direct mail, where everything that you send out costs $1, then you've got to dial it in. And that's the world that I started with. I mean, we were sending out these 29-page reports and the 8-step direct mail sequence, that whole shebang, right? Those guys, most of the internet marketing gurus now are spouting off the reheated leftovers of Dan Kennedy and Zig Ziglar and Claude Hopkins and Ogilvy and all these guys that had to do it in a totally different environment. So anyway, No BS Time Management for Entrepreneurs by Dan Kennedy it's a short book. It's like strong beer, but man, it's good.
That's awesome, brother. Thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. It was an awesome episode. I'm sure it's going to be one of the top watched for sure. And we got to catch up here soon.
My pleasure, Joe.
All right. Joe Troyer here with another episode of Show Me the Nuggets. Have an awesome day, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to Show Me the Nuggets. If you've been enjoying the podcast and find our content helpful, please visit our Apple Podcast page, hit the subscribe button, and leave us a review. Joe and the whole team have been working hard to bring more value to the show. Your feedback will go a long way in helping us make the show better and reach a wider audience.